Men often believe cheating begins with a physical act, something tangible they can point to. But women, in their quiet emotional depth, understand that betrayal starts long before that. Emotional cheating is invisible, yet it cuts deeper than any affair of the body. There are no obvious signs, no messages you can prove, no late night calls you can confront. What exists instead is a subtle change in energy, an unspoken shift that you can feel but can't quite name. You sense something is off, but when you ask, she says nothing's wrong. The truth is, something already has changed. She's not touching anyone else, but she's opening her heart to someone new. And by the time you notice, her loyalty has already left, gently and silently. This kind of betrayal doesn't arrive suddenly. It begins when communication fades, when she stops feeling safe enough to be vulnerable with you. She used to share her fears, her frustrations, and her small joys. Now those conversations go elsewhere. At first, it seems harmless, just a friend, someone she can vent to. But emotional intimacy is powerful. When she starts opening up to another man, when she tells him things she once told you, she's transferring her emotional energy. That trust, that sacred connection is shifting its gravity. Emotional cheating doesn't start with secrets. It starts with substitution, when someone else becomes her emotional confidant. The one who listens becomes the one she trusts. And once trust shifts, everything else follows. You may notice how her tone changes when she talks about him. Her eyes light up, her laughter feels freer. That glow you used to create is now tied to someone else's presence. You might try to convince yourself that you're imagining it, that it's stress or exhaustion, but the truth is written in her energy. The connection that once flowed between you is being redirected. She's building an emotional bridge, one message, one conversation, one shared vulnerability at a time. Every late night text, every moment she feels understood, strengthens a bond that quietly pulls her away from you. And though she may still say she loves you, the emotional weight of that love has shifted elsewhere. What makes this kind of betrayal so painful is its subtlety. Emotional distance doesn't scream, it whispers. She's still physically there, sitting beside you, saying goodnight, but the warmth is gone. The silence between you no longer feels comfortable. It feels hollow, heavy with things unsaid. You sense her absence in her presence. Her words are polite instead of affectionate. Her laughter no longer includes you. And though she's not angry, her detachment feels like rejection. This is the withdrawal phase, the quiet part of emotional departure, where she starts packing her feelings, not her belongings. She's detaching emotionally while pretending everything is fine. This emotional absence often arrives before you realize what's happening. You'll notice how she laughs more easily when she's on her phone, how her attention drifts elsewhere even when you're together. You'll rationalize it. Maybe it's work stress, maybe she's tired, but deep down you know something's missing. The space that used to be filled with connection has become emptiness. You're still trying to hold on to what's left, but it feels like holding water in your hands. It slips away no matter how tightly you grip it. Soon, small behavioral shifts appear. Her phone, once left carelessly on the couch, is now always face down. Notifications are muted. When you walk into the room, the screen darkens. She tells you that privacy is normal, and she's right. Privacy is healthy. But secrecy is not. There's a fine line between boundaries and guilt. And when someone begins protecting their conversations more fiercely than they protect their relationship, that line has been crossed. You don't need to read the messages to know what's going on. The emotional silence tells you enough. She's not hiding because there's danger. She's hiding because it's intimate. You might try to reason with yourself. Maybe she just values her space. Maybe you're overreacting, but secrecy always leaves a trail of unease. When emotional intimacy transfers to someone else, even innocent messages start to carry weight. Excitement, anticipation, connection. You can feel it even if you can't see it. The glow on her face when she checks her phone, the small smile she hides, these are not random. Emotional betrayal isn't about the words exchanged, it's about where her emotions now belong. If she guards her chats like a secret, it's because those words mean more than friendship. Then comes comparison. You start hearing another man's name more often, maybe a coworker, maybe a friend. At first it feels harmless. She talks about his humor, his confidence, his kindness, but slowly his name begins to echo in conversations, and you realize she's not just mentioning him, she's measuring you against him. Comparison is never accidental, it's emotional displacement. When she starts highlighting what he does right and what you do wrong, it's not about improvement, it's about replacement. She's mentally exploring what it would feel like to be seen and appreciated by someone new. Her focus shifts from loving you to evaluating you. She's not seeking solutions anymore. She's seeking validation elsewhere. You'll feel it in her tone, the way her eyes soften when she mentions him, the way she lights up at his stories. These are not coincidences. She's building a new emotional narrative, one where you're no longer the hero. The comparisons grow sharper. The distance between what you are and what she wishes you'd be becomes more obvious. And though she insists you're imagining things, her admiration has already drifted. By the time she starts idealizing someone else, she's emotionally rewriting her story. You're no longer the partner she leans on, you're the memory she's outgrowing. Even small moments start to feel different. You share good news, a promotion, a win, something you're proud of, and she barely reacts. There was a time she'd celebrate with you, her joy amplifying your own. But now her response is muted, distracted. That lack of enthusiasm hurts more than anger ever could. Because when someone stops celebrating your wins, it means they no longer feel part of your story. Emotional connection thrives on shared joy. When that joy disappears, so does the sense of togetherness. She might still ask how work is going, but her questions feel mechanical. The emotional warmth is gone. It's not that she doesn't care about the result, she just doesn't feel connected to it anymore. You'll sense her emotional absence in the quiet spaces, the moments when her smile doesn't reach her eyes, when her laughter feels rehearsed, when she's present but somewhere else. And though she may still go through the motions, dinner, conversation, routine, you can feel that she's already building a world where you no longer exist at the center. Emotional betrayal doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it lives in the small silences, the polite smiles, the missing applause. It's not loud, it's quiet, and that's what makes it so devastating. When emotional detachment deepens, it often transforms into quiet irritation. Suddenly, everything you do seems to bother her. The tone of your voice, the way you phrase things, even your smallest habits, once familiar and endearing, now draw sighs or eye rolls. You start wondering what changed, searching for the mistake you can fix. But her irritation isn't truly about you anymore. It's about the internal conflict she's battling. When someone begins to feel emotionally drawn to another person while still in a relationship, guilt and confusion start to build. That tension has to go somewhere, and often it escapes as frustration toward the person she's drifting away from. The result is a cycle of distance and defensiveness that feels impossible to understand from the outside. She might pick fights over minor things or retreat into silence when you try to talk. You interpret this as anger, but what's really happening is avoidance. Emotional guilt often disguises itself as annoyance. By convincing herself that you're the problem, she can justify her emotional withdrawal. It's a defense mechanism. If she believes she's unhappy because of you, she doesn't have to confront the truth about her growing attachment to someone else. This makes you chase her calm, trying harder to prove your love, to apologize for things you don't fully understand. But the more you chase, the further she retreats. Because in her mind, closeness now feels like pressure. She feels confined, not by your love, but by the emotional conflict inside her. This is one of the most misunderstood stages of emotional cheating. Many men try to fix what they believe is tension, when in fact it's absence. She's not angry because of what you did. She's uncomfortable because of what she's feeling. The distance isn't punishment, it's escape. Emotional detachment often hides beneath irritation. What you're witnessing isn't rejection, it's transition. She's slowly moving her affection elsewhere, and her heart no longer rests easily beside yours. Every moment of silence, every short response, every sigh is a quiet signal that her emotional world is shifting. You can sense it, but you can't touch it. It's like trying to hold on to someone who's already halfway gone. Soon, admiration for someone else starts to take root. You'll notice it in the way she talks about another man, with warmth, fascination, or subtle awe. Maybe he's a friend, a coworker, or someone who simply listens differently. She describes him as thoughtful, driven, or funny. You tell yourself it's harmless, but what you're hearing isn't just admiration, it's projection. When someone feels emotionally neglected, they start to project their unmet needs onto another person. The qualities she describes in him are reflections of what she craves emotionally. He becomes the image of everything she feels she's missing, and through that idealization, a new emotional bond starts to form. She might defend him passionately if you mention how often his name comes up. She'll insist it's innocent, that you're overreacting. But emotional idealization rarely stays innocent for long. She's not describing who he is. She's describing who she wishes you still were. That's the hidden truth behind emotional infatuation. It's less about the person and more about the feeling they represent. This kind of attachment grows quickly because it exists in imagination, not reality. There's no conflict, no responsibility, just the freedom to feel seen again. In her mind, this new connection becomes a safe place to feel alive, to be understood without the weight of history. And that fantasy, though intangible, can feel more fulfilling than real love that's grown complicated. You might sense that something is changing, but when you ask, she becomes defensive. That defensiveness isn't just denial, it's self-preservation. This is when she starts justifying her behavior. She says you're overreacting, that you should trust her, that it's normal to talk to friends. But beneath those words lies a deeper truth. She's aware of the emotional boundaries she's crossing. Rationalization becomes her armor. She redefines the story so she can continue the connection without confronting guilt. The more you question her, the more she reframes your concern as control. She starts saying things like, "You don't trust me," or "You're being paranoid." These statements aren't meant to reassure you. They're meant to protect her new emotional reality. The relationship starts feeling upside down. You, the one who's noticing the distance, become the villain in her version of the story. This stage is where many relationships fracture quietly. You start doubting yourself, wondering if you're too sensitive, too insecure. You start apologizing to keep the peace, not realizing that each apology is eroding your own confidence. Meanwhile, she's not defending the relationship anymore. She's defending her choices. When justification replaces honesty, emotional truth disappears. She may not admit it, but she's no longer seeking understanding. She's seeking permission, even if it's unspoken. And when she reaches that mindset, she's no longer your partner in resolving conflict. She's already your opponent in emotional distance. You can't reason with someone who's rewriting the story to protect their escape. Eventually, she asks for space. Those words sound calm, almost reasonable. "I just need time for myself. I need to think." You want to believe her. You want to believe that space means reflection, that she'll come back once she's sorted her thoughts. But emotional space often isn't about confusion, it's about conclusion. She's not lost. She's already found something that makes her feel more alive, even if it's not another person. Sometimes the something else is emotional freedom. Sometimes it's simply relief from the guilt and tension that's been building. When she asks for space, she's already halfway gone. The calmness in her tone isn't peace, it's closure. It's the sound of someone who's already detached emotionally and is now preparing to detach physically. You hold on to hope, thinking that distance will make her miss you. But space doesn't create longing when someone has already emotionally left. It creates clarity. She's using that time to build a life where she no longer needs you at the center. You can feel it in the way she speaks during that period. Less emotion, less effort, fewer words. You try to hold on, but you can't grasp what isn't there anymore. The love you're trying to revive doesn't live in the same place it used to. Emotional absence is final long before physical distance arrives. By the time she's asking for space, she's already found it, in someone else's presence, or in a world where your connection no longer defines her. And when that moment comes, you face an impossible truth. You can't fight for something that's no longer being shared. You can't fix a relationship that's being lived on one side. What remains is not love, but residue, the faint memory of what love used to feel like. You stand in the ruins of a bond that once felt unbreakable, realizing that it wasn't another man who took her away. It was the emotional gap that grew quietly between you, the moments of neglect, the unspoken loneliness that neither of you addressed. Emotional betrayal doesn't begin with deception, it begins with distance. And that distance, once it grows deep enough, becomes irreversible. Emotional cheating is a slow unraveling of connection, not an explosion of betrayal. It doesn't start with a kiss or a secret meeting. It begins with a quiet shift in attention, a small moment when one partner stops feeling seen and starts seeking that validation elsewhere. Most people think cheating happens the moment someone crosses a physical line, but it actually starts with neglect, the kind that hides behind routine, missed conversations, forgotten affection, a lack of curiosity about each other's inner world. Over time, that emotional distance becomes fertile ground for someone new to step in. What was once a strong bond begins to erode, not from conflict, but from silence. When she starts sharing her deepest thoughts with someone else, when her joy, sadness, or fears go to another person first, the emotional current that once kept your connection alive begins to dry up. It's not that she stops caring overnight, it's that she's redirected the energy that used to belong to you. Love doesn't disappear instantly, it fades through repetition. Each time she opens up to someone else instead of you, she trains her heart to seek comfort elsewhere. And by the time you notice, she's already emotionally gone, even if she's still standing next to you. But here's the truth that most people overlook. Emotional cheating doesn't happen in a vacuum. It thrives in the spaces where communication and empathy have broken down. It's the result of two people drifting apart without realizing it. That's why the solution isn't just about catching signs, it's about prevention. When emotional needs go unmet for too long, connection weakens. So instead of chasing her distance or blaming yourself endlessly, start by understanding what created that gap. Relationships don't collapse from one big moment, they crumble from 1,000 small moments of inattention. Learning to recognize those moments early can save more than just trust, it can save the bond itself. If you're in a place where you sense the distance but don't know how to fix it, start with honesty. Not confrontation, but conversation. Ask her how she's feeling, not about you, but about herself. Emotional cheating often begins when someone feels unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. Rebuilding safety starts with listening, not reacting. Don't rush to accuse or defend. Instead, create a space where vulnerability can exist again, a place where both of you can admit what's missing without judgment. True connection is restored not by force, but by presence. If she's already drifted too far, you might not be able to bring her back. That's the hardest truth. You can't control another person's loyalty, but you can control how you respond. Chasing someone who's emotionally gone doesn't restore love, it erodes self-respect. The more you try to prove your worth to someone who's already detached, the more invisible you become. Instead of pleading for attention, turn that energy inward. Rebuild your emotional strength. Remember who you were before you started doubting your own value. Healing doesn't come from reclaiming what was lost. It comes from rediscovering the parts of you that you forgot trying to hold on. Understanding emotional betrayal is painful, but it's also liberating. Because once you see it for what it is, you stop personalizing it. You realize that emotional distance isn't always an attack. It's sometimes a reflection of her own emptiness, her own confusion, her own unmet needs. You can't heal her by sacrificing yourself. You can only heal by learning from what happened, by asking the hard questions. When did communication fade? When did silence replace connection? When did effort become optional? These questions don't just explain the past, they prepare you for a future where you can love more consciously. The goal isn't to fear emotional cheating, it's to recognize emotional responsibility. Every relationship is built on shared effort, and when that effort becomes one-sided, cracks appear. To prevent emotional betrayal, nurture emotional intimacy daily. Listen when it's inconvenient, appreciate without expectation, speak with kindness even when you're tired. Emotional connection is like a muscle. It strengthens with use and weakens with neglect. When both partners choose to stay curious about each other, the bond stays alive. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. And if you're the one who feels neglected, know that you're not broken for wanting to be seen. Emotional needs are not weakness, they're the foundation of connection. Wanting attention, affection, or communication doesn't make you needy, it makes you human. The problem isn't the desire for closeness, it's ignoring that desire until it turns into resentment. The moment you start feeling distant, speak up. Don't wait for the silence to grow. Addressing disconnection early is the strongest form of loyalty you can show. There's also power in acceptance. Sometimes, no matter how much you care, people grow apart. Emotional cheating might be a painful ending, but it can also be a beginning. A redirection toward growth, clarity, and self-awareness. You can't rewrite what happened, but you can choose what happens next. Instead of letting pain define you, let it refine you. Use it to understand what you need in love, how you want to be treated, and what kind of connection truly nourishes your heart. Every ending carries within it a lesson that can make your next beginning stronger. So if you've found yourself in this situation, take a breath. Don't rush to fix, to fight, or to prove. Just pause and listen, to the silence, to the hurt, to the truth. Emotional betrayal doesn't have to destroy you. It can awaken you. It can remind you of your capacity to love deeply, to care, and to rebuild even after being broken. The most powerful thing you can do now is not to chase what's gone, but to choose what stays with you, within you. Because healing doesn't start when they return, it starts when you do. Emotional cheating is silent, invisible, and universal. It's not about guilt or blame, it's about awareness. The lesson it carries is simple but profound. Love requires presence, not perfection. It asks that you stay curious, attentive, and open-hearted, that you never stop learning your partner and never stop listening to yourself. Whether you're rebuilding or letting go, remember this. Your worth isn't measured by who stays. It's defined by how you choose to heal, to grow, and to love again with wisdom instead of fear.